As I'm sure you're aware, I'm really particular about how far out I'm fishing and actually marking the distance and recording the distance. And I've got it written down in my phone of how many reel turns it is out to loads of spots on loads of different lakes. So I can go back in the swim and be back on the spot really quickly. But this year, I got into a tactic which I've seen loads of other people do. People like Jake Wildboar has been doing it for years. And I sort of ignored it, carried on doing it the way I was doing it. But this is much better. And it incorporates those little fellas, the Cygnet distance sticks. And what I'm basically doing is wrapping the line around them, counting how many wraps rather than how many turns of the reel, making a note of that, and then you can get back out to the swim even more easily. I used to walk my lines out. You don't need to do it with this. All you're doing is going backwards and forwards through the sticks, and you can get it exactly right every single time, and it is so simple and so easy to do. So the two sticks come with a cord that you put round them first of all, put them in the ground so they're a rod length apart. Then take the cord out of the way, and then all you basically do is wrap the lead around one stick, and then what I'm basically doing is working in a figure of 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll stop at 10 for a minute. Now obviously one wrap is a rod length is 4 yards, so 10 wraps is 40 yards. So if you know a spot is 50 yards out, then it's 12.5 wraps that you want to be going round. So you can, if you've already got it in your head how far the spot is, you can use the wraps to get roughly there for the first cast. And what I've done at the start of the session, I've just put out the marker rod with no marker on it, just a lead on the end of the braided line, felt the lead hit the bottom and just cast around, and that's the best way to learn what the bottom's like out there. It's a bit of weed out there and I'm casting around trying to find the areas where there's less weed. Once I've done that, I'll clip the rod up, do the same thing with the distance markers, count how many wraps it is, and then I don't have to cast the rod at the marker float. I can just go around the same number of wraps and I'm at the same distance. And this happens to be 29, so we're on 10, so let's carry on going. If you actually hold the rod forwards like that, I'm not putting any real tension on the line coming off the reel, it's just clicking past my fingers. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now, if you go round and around, which some people have a tendency to do because it's easy, as you're winding it back off, you can lift all the loops of line off and then it's absolute carnage. You almost have to cut it all off and start again. So as long as you figure of 8 it, I've never had any problems, and you'll see my sticks are angled out just slightly. So rather than being straight or inwards, that little bit of an extra angle creates a bit more tension on the line and stops it all coming off together. So I'm on 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 29. And I've actually marked the line at that distance as well. I've got a little bit of marker tape on the line as well. But with this tactic, it's not actually necessary to mark the line because you're going out the same distance every single time by wrapping it around the sticks. And if you have problems with the line marker catching when you cast and slowing it down, it happens to us all, it gets almost there, it hits the line marker, looks like the rig's tangled or it doesn't go quite far enough. With this, you don't actually need to have the line marker on there, so it sails out perfect every time. So I've now clipped it under the line clip on the reel, and then I'm going to have the rod up in the air and I'm just going to wind it back over the two. Some people go round the poles again, but I just keep the rod tip up in the air, and if you want you can actually count it as it comes back off again, just to make sure you're the right distance. So I'll get a bucket of water and just tip it over the spool of the reel so that not too much line comes off in one go on the cast and it doesn't frap up. And you can do this in the dark. There we are, back down to the lead. All you have to do, just shine your headlamp on the poles as you're going around in the dark, and it's just as easy. when I was fishing over at Bluebell earlier on in the season, 18 wraps was the distance. Some of the distances I've been fishing at Wellington Country Park have been 10 wraps, 15 wraps, but it's all written down, and I know that if I go in that swim, cast at that tree at 18 wraps, I'm bang on the money. It's an absolutely ingenious idea. I should have been using it years ago, but it now forms a major part of my fishing. Get this off and get it out there.